Hi, my name is Lindsay O'Donnell, and throughout this PowerPoint, we will be discussing the importance of lifelong learning, the methods of lifelong learning, the best forms of lifelong learning, and my personal goals. Lifelong learning is essential for nurses as it is the only path to providing the type of care that patients deserve. Without a plan for continuing education after a formal education is complete, a nurse restricts their knowledge to what they brought out of nursing school, while a nurse who continues to seek out new educational opportunities is available to expand their knowledge base and incorporate new medical discoveries and breakthroughs into their patients' care. Before a lifelong learning plan can be formulated, one must first understand the different forms of education that are available. Not all education comes from a classroom setting. Other types of education include mentorship, journal articles and internet research, attending conferences, and what I consider to be the most important, work experience. Mentorship is likely to be the most difficult of all the methods of learning because a suitable role model first needs to be found and a relationship needs to be formed. However, once the mentor-mentee relationship is established, this path to education could be the most rewarding. By finding someone who is established in a practice and tapping their well of knowledge, you not only gain access to what they have learned in their formal education, but also what they have learned through their experiences. The second method of learning includes journal articles and internet research. Websites like the National Institute of Health's National Library of Medicine make journal articles on all aspects of medicine available to all for free. Researching and learning about new medical procedures, practices, and treatment is easier now than it ever has been, thanks to the internet and websites like the one above. The third method of learning is attending conferences. For me at least, attending conferences was the most easily overlooked of all the ways I could continue my education. Attending conferences allows for you to access speakers and ideas that would not have reached you otherwise. Although conferences were the source of education I least expected to be helpful, I believe that attending conferences could be the greatest resource for finding new paths I may be interested in. Work experience, as in on-the-job training, seems to be where most nurses I know point to when they are asked what lifelong learning they've experienced. Work experience can be an excellent source of education, especially for tactile learners such as myself. However, there are a great number of situations in a nursing environment where work experience is a poor and possibly dangerous substitute for formal education. Work experience can be an excellent way to reinforce knowledge learned in a classroom setting and in controlled environments, an excellent source for learning new information. And the last form of education is a formal classroom setting. Classroom education is the standard for education for a reason. It is the safest, most reliable form of education we have available. Classroom education could mean attending classes at a college or university and working towards additional degrees or certificates. Or it could mean attending classes purely for educational purposes, such as those provided by an employer. Although classroom education has been the standard for hundreds of years, that doesn't mean it hasn't changed. Now, with the expanding role of technology in our lives, classroom education can be remote in nature. Choosing the best form of learning. Of the forms of education mentioned in prior slides, which form would work best for a particular student is largely dependent on the type of learner they are. I am fairly evenly split between being an auditory, visual, and tactile learner, with a slight preference for the tactile side. Being nearly evenly split Though I still prefer more tactile methods such as learning through work experience, I believe I could excel in any of the paths. This is particularly true after learning the different ways a tactile learner can optimize their formal education toward a tactile learner's perspective. The final consideration that must be made before a plan can be created is what the goal of education is. Are you learning for the sake of learning? Are you attending classes in order to earn a degree? Are you attending classes in order to attain a certificate? Is the education mandatory, or is it voluntary? All of these questions and more need to be addressed before a plan can be created. For me, the primary purpose for continuing in formal education is to earn advanced degrees. After earning a BSN, I plan to continue my education and either become a CRNA or a nurse practitioner. However, that is not my only goal. I also want to continue to give my patients the best care possible and possibly move around within my current employment. In order to achieve my goals, I have taken the first step by beginning this path towards my BSN. While working toward my BSN, I have also taken all of the classes necessary to be a full-time critical care nurse and will have completed all of my preliminary on-the-job training by the end of August. Not only did completing the Essentials of Critical Care orientation give me the foundational knowledge to safely move into the work experience and end of learning, but it has allowed me to move into a full-time critical care experience, a prerequisite if I do end up continuing on to be a CRNA. As a critical care nurse, I will continue to reinforce the knowledge I've learned in nursing school and the extensive knowledge covered in the orientation through my work experience. I have also identified several nurses in the ICU I will be working on who I believe would serve as an excellent role model. Although I do not have any planned for in the immediate future, I also intend on attending conferences in the future when my schedule calms slightly.